Hey guys, Kaylin here, and I thought I would do a video on how I color. Now, this by no means is the right way to do it, it's just the way that I've done it and how I've kind of gotten to the habit of doing it. So I just thought I would dissect this page a little bit more, slow it down to real time so you can see me coloring these two panels on this current page, page 19 of chapter 14. Now, the two bottom panels are already outlined, so I'm going to do some coloring. And you'll notice that Korik has a stroke on his outline already. I have put him on a separate layer since he is kind of sitting in front of Vesper a little bit. So I wanted to do a stroke on his outline to bring him forward just a little bit. And sometimes I'll do the stroke ahead of time when I'm coloring just so I can see, I can separate them from the background a little bit more, so it kind of allows me to see the outlines just a little bit more with the white behind it. And it is the layer, the outline layer on top, the color layer, which I am coloring on now, and then the bottom layer is a duplicate layer of the outline with a stroke on it, which I will then lower the opacity to 50% once I am finished. If that makes sense. Now there are days where I really enjoy the coloring process. I would have to say in order. I love the roughing stage. I love the coloring stage, and then the outline, and then the shading is last. Outline's kind of below because it's just so tedious at times. And I would say, coloring is kind of tedious as well, but I mean, there's something very therapeutic about it. You just kind of shut your brain down, and you just kind of, there's coloring books for adults now. It's nice. You just shut your brain down and you just color. It's great. So, okay, I had the flat colors, and I have magic wanded his face, and I go into this palette that I have with all their colors just to keep it straight, for reference. I'll take the brush tool, I'll feather it out, lower the opacity down to 20%, and then I will color in their nose, their cheeks, and their ears. Just kind of give them a little bit more dimension. And then I will lock the layer and take the same feathered brush and 20%, and I will take the outline color, the dark red, and just kind of feather gradient one side of them to kind of give them a little more dimension, a little more shading. Since there was a fire in this scene, so it's off to the distance, but there's a little bit of a glow to the background, I gave them a little bit of glow. So on the other side, the opposite side of the dark red, I gave them an orange gradient. And then once that's all done, I go in for the details for their eyes and their little nose shines. Give their face a little bit more. Now too, with Korik, the gradient, the darker color, helps his hair stand out from his face. Sometimes, I made him very pale-skinned, and obviously the white hair. Sometimes he struggles to stand out. And of course, go over to my palette and grab his green eyes. And that palette too, I know that people save palettes in actual Photoshop, but for some reason I've always stuck with the character design palette, just simply because it's, you can see the color, represented on the character, and it just keeps it all straight. There are scenes that require the coloring of a character to change, like if they're in, if it's a nighttime shot and they all have that blue hue. I will always color them, stick with that palette, and then adjust the colors afterwards, just so I can try to keep the coloring consistent. Now I created another layer on top of my color layer and changed it to multiply, and I grabbed a light gray, light purple color to do the shading. And I don't do a lot of shading detail. It's basically, just to pop their face just a little bit. My tendency is to keep it as simple as possible. I really enjoy, I mean, time-wise too, it's very important to keep it simple, but it's a very clean look when you keep it very simple, and I really like that. All right, once my shading is complete, I will take the eraser tool and feather that out and lower it down to 40%, and then just kind of erase some of my shading just to make it look nice. And there you have it. There's my coloring process. I hope that was useful at all. And until next time, bye-bye.